Welcome back to another newer video. So before you get bored, before you click away, this is essentially my first impressions video of Brimstone Sands. Yes, I've got to play it. Yes, I've got to try the greatsword. Yes, I played it with Baggins. So in August, Baggins and I and a couple of others got invited to a sort of small event in London where we essentially got to try Brimstone Sands. We got to record some content, we got to ask some questions, and it was a really cool little event. So yeah, essentially this video is going to be my first impressions and genuine feelings on the update. It's pretty good. Now, they haven't paid me to say that. I essentially stream newer pretty much every day. It's kind of, I don't know, I do genuinely still like the game. There is still a shitload of problems with it. We all know that. But it is still very good, and this update I think will pleasantly surprise most of you. First impressions of the update. What essentially happened in the event was we got there. It was a super cool event, super cool location, sort of down in the depths of an underground sort of cellar in in London. It sounds kind of weird, but it was super cool. And the first thing that happened at this event was we got shown a presentation. Now I thought this was just going to be Brimstone, but it's not. There is updates happening across Aeternum. Some are actually pretty insane. We'll start off with Brimstone. So Brimstone is essentially the new area that's come into New World. It is roughly three times the size of the other zones that we have. So my first sort of impression of Brimstone was when I saw the cinematics, when I saw the first glimpses of what they've done, what they've changed, what they've created. I was genuinely surprised. I think the biggest and most sort of jaw-dropping moment was when we saw the town for the first time. This, typically in New World we've had a copy and paste across all the towns. This was the first time we've seen a brand new, exciting feeling, around a new town. It's completely different from anything we've seen before, and it looks huge. So the town itself, theming-wise, it's absolutely incredible. To be fair, along with the rest of Brimstone, I think we can all agree across New World, all of the landscape team, the design team, the music team, perfect. Like every time, it looks brilliant, and that carries on with Brimstone. Brimstone's got a lot of cool sort of quirky elements to it, lots of cool statues. There's even a bath you can, like an old Roman bath that you can go and sit in and sort of chill out on the side. So a little bit of a role play element there. But again, it's just absolutely huge, and in the distance you can see the pyramid. The pyramid is where the expedition is, and we'll come on to that later. But just as you're running around, this town feels like it's been built for a large community. Now, we know that when this drops on live servers, lots of people are going to head there and lots of people are going to be exploring it and taking it over. But it definitely feels like it's been built for a larger scale player base, which is really cool. Hopefully that's leading on to something in the future. Hopefully I want to see bigger servers and larger populations of players come back to the game. But yeah, in general, the theming of Brimstone is absolutely stunning, and everything about it looks fantastic. Now, I think sort of the story behind this is, essentially it's ancient Egyptians, and they've sort of left their mark on the land. And then as you sort of explore into the deserts and explore into like sort of the areas around the main town, you can start to see remnants of like the old Roman Empire. So I'm assuming at some point, you know, the Egyptians came, the Romans were here. The Romans are now, as far as I can tell, mostly corrupted. So kind of carrying on the theme of, you know, the rest of the Aeternum is they've essentially turned bad. But yeah, Brimstone Sands itself, from a visual standpoint, beautiful, and I think you guys are really going to have an amazing time running around. I know I did. It was a real nice change from what we've seen before. You know, different vibes being in the sand. It was really cool. You know, there was even sort of like a Roman. It looked like a theater made for like plays, but you know, the first thing in my head was that is a dueling arena. Well, that is going to be awesome. So I'm hoping we get to kind of play around with things like that. And yeah, that was kind of my sort of initial vibes on the way the town looks and the way, you know, Brimstone Sands looks. Now, something else that came up in the cinematic that David played us was Monarchs, Bluff, and Everfall. My jaw dropped, and I was just like, and I think I said, "What the fuck?" Monarchs Bluff has had a complete overhaul. There has been a new story introduced. There's been just take a look at this. As you can see, Monarchs Bluff has turned from this sort of old rickety wooden fort into an absolute castle. Wicked castle. Now there is a story behind it as well. They haven't just plonked a castle in the game. There is sort of a King Arthur storyline that follows on with Monarchs Bluff being the way it is now. Essentially following the feedback they've been getting from what we were told is that they're really going to revamp the starting feeling for people. Obviously that doesn't mean too much for us as regular players. However, you know, looking forward to hopefully new people coming back to the game who will just restart their characters, will get to see all this stuff for the first time and just have a really wicked first impression. So Monarchs Bluff is now a bloody castle. Not just any castle, King Arthur's fucking castle. It's super cool, and this sort of change again, it's not content related in terms of things that we can do. It's not bug fixing. It's nothing like that. It's just a visual change. I guess there's content in terms of like the storyline and stuff, but you know, for me, changes like this really make places we're going to be visiting throughout the game unique and just mega cool. The next one, Everfall. So it wasn't just Monarchs Bluff that they changed. Everfall has had a complete makeover as well. A place you would have all visited by now, and most of us see Everfall and Windswood as, you know, the capital cities, the main towns of the servers. I know that other places are making money now, but these two places, they're still center of the map, and you know. Anyway, long story short, Everfall has had a makeover. Check this out. As you can see, similar vibes to Monarchs. Not like content changes per se, but insane visual changes. I know it's just the wall and it's just bricks, but you know, after playing the game for a year pretty much solidly, seeing a place and a town that I've visited so many times and spent so many hours in, it's just super cool, you know. It's just really cool. I can't really put my finger on it why I'm so excited about it. It's just bricks, but it's genuinely something that I'm like, oh shit, this is cool. I'm watching it as I'm talking to you here. You know, the old townhouses gone from sort of rickety old wooden olden day buildings to something slightly more modern. And you know, I don't know how or why I felt this way, but you guys know I love black sails, and it reminded me of sort of it's not a port town, but like a port town that the pirates sailed to in old England, and it gave me that sort of vibe. And you know, I was just like, yeah, this is awesome, and it just gave me sort of a very good initial first impressions. So visually, Everfall, Monarchs, Bluff, Brimstone, all looking insane. Some big changes there, and it's not just those places. They've also changed and introduced some old POIs. So you would remember this is the old graveyard that you would have gone to doing some quests, you know, early on. Is now been turned into sort of a Covenant faction headquarters. Again, Marauders. This is by the looks of things out the back of Everfall Fort. Has gone from look, I don't know, it's just some scenery to now this insanely cool Marauders POI, which is going to be sort of the Marauders headquarters. It's just cool. Again, visually fantastic. I don't know if any more content sort of following on from these being here. Maybe the sort of faction quests been expanded and have changed a little bit, but these visual changes I think will give us current players sort of a huge sense of change, even though we haven't had shed loads of change. It's like visually very impactful. One thing that they have said and sort of confirmed is that there's, I know I mentioned it earlier, but the starting areas are going to sort of change, and your sort of starting vibes as you start to play through New World are going to change. So more interactive NPCs. I don't have footage of this, I'm afraid. So more interactive NPCs. They're supposed to move again. Something that has been done 10 years ago in games, but it's not in New World yet. So more interactive NPCs, people that are moving, lots more sort of talking and things happening. Something that I loved from Guild Wars was jumping puzzles. There's essentially jumping puzzles in this now. So as you move around Windswood, I know we've got some footage here of Windswood. You can see the old ruins here. You can actually climb on top of that and sort of get some loot or reward once you get to the top. Again, nothing sort of absolutely crazy, but really, you know, it's more interactive and it's a bit more exciting early on. So developing this world that people are getting to see. Now, one of the big ones for me was obviously the greatsword. I had all these plans when I got invited to this event. I was like, right, tick 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 tick, I need to make sure I get these things done, get this content recorded. I kid you not, the moment I got into the game, it all went out the window. I picked up the greatsword. I looked at like 2 skills and I was like, poof, just everything on that left skill tree, and just started, I don't know, hitting things. It felt really nice to hold. It felt really nice to play. It's kind of like the Warhammer. Felt maybe a little bit larger than life. Didn't need to be that big, but it was pretty cool to see. Our sort of first impressions of the greatsword. I think it's probably on the build I was playing slightly overtuned, and I think you need to kind of have that with new weapons so you can get some genuine feedback and then sort of balance it down rather than be down and balance it up. I think they've gone slightly over, and maybe they're going to be balancing it down. I could be wrong. I only got a chance to play it against Scythe, who was playing in light, and there was a moment that I sort of did a couple of combos and then boom, gave him the old one shot. which was cool, and it made me feel good because I was in heavy, and yeah, for the last few months, you know, I've been dubbing it Dex World, because if I play heavy or if I play anything but light, I'm just getting my butt kicked. So it kind of gave me a bit of a reassurance that heavy's not completely dead moving forward. And yeah, I mean, I don't want to comment too much on this because my knowledge and my expertise in kind of builds and weapons is pretty low. I'm pretty much a big tanky boy, and I've only just started to play with sort of higher DPS builds. But the greatsword felt good, it was fluid, and you know, I think it's going to be a great addition to the New World. So a couple more things. I'm not going to bore you too long. I don't want to have this video go on too long, but a few other things that we noticed while we're in the game. So runes, this is absolutely massive. I'm essentially calling it the ultimate ability. What you get is there is a new ability essentially. So sitting next to your weapons on your inventory, you have a space where you can drop in what is called a rune. These runes give you another ability, and there is a variety of abilities that you can do. One of them was pulling out a massive cannon, firing this mega cannon. I think I recorded it did like 3k damage. Again, I was on heavy, and that was fighting like just a random mob, so it can do a bit of damage. The other one was rooting people. I think you could root people and sort of lock them down. Another one, I flew up in the air, dropped down, and did some damage. Again, like a terrible content creator, I didn't read all the descriptions. I put it on. I was like a little kid playing, like, this is awesome. Used the abilities, was like, whoa, and then moved on to the next one. So not really much formal information here, so do forgive me. We'll check it out on the PTR together. I'll be there, I'll be playing. You're welcome to drop in stream and we can chat about it. It'll be great fun. There are new gems that are coming to the game. So essentially what I think these are sort of slightly more powerful gems than what we can get now, and I think these are done through the stone cutting table, which will sort of take I don't know, an amethyst gem that we have now, and maybe it does 20%. Do not quote me on these. Which will now, when you get the sort of ultimate gem, you now can have 30% on it. I do need to do my research into this, but there are new gems. Well, there are new versions of gems coming to the game. And finally, we'll just touch on the expedition. We didn't get a chance to run the full thing, but Baggins, Scythe, and I, we got together as a trio. Baggins the legend was healing. Scythe was on like 1,000,000 DPS with maybe like 0 con, and I went in on my heavy greatsword blunderbuss build, and we had a run through. In this expedition, there are 3 bosses instead of sort of the standard 2. Again, we have seen some mobs in here that relate to what we've seen previously in Aeternum, and some of them feel a little bit reskinned, but the majority of it felt very new. There was a moment where we saw one of the bosses that had sort of what's it called? His health bar was sort of broken up into segments. And the initial thought that I had was every segment was going to create sort of a new mechanic, and he was going to do something new. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case, but there is parts of the boss that you essentially proc different mechanics. It was fun, like genuinely was fun. I'm not a mega expedition guy. What I would like to see on the expeditions is when you do the mutations, new mechanics come into the game. But genuinely, as with most of the New World experiences, the feeling and the vibe that you got from running it was just genuinely awesome. Will it get boring quickly? I don't think so. It's definitely going to be a longer dungeon than the others because there's 3 bosses in there now, not 2. There's new mechanics, there's new mobs, there's just new things happening. So it's going to be exciting, at least for a good time, because simply everything's brand new, mostly. So yeah, I do think the expedition is going to be good fun. I'm very excited to see the drops that we get. We didn't really get to see too much on that, especially from when you enter the expedition. There was nothing popping up there, but yeah, the expedition is looking great. It's got some really cool sort of storyline behind it. They did mention that there's going to be cinematics in here. Now, when I think of cinematics, I think of what we see here on screen now. Some really cool sort of in-game visuals. What I think we're going to get is what we saw in Tempest Heart, so sort of an artistic cinematics that kind of tells a story. Now, I personally don't like that. I would prefer the sort of in-game cinematics, but we get these artistic cinematics, which should hopefully tell a bit of a story and keep people sort of engaged in the storyline here. So I'll just sort of give you some final thoughts. Extremely grateful to be invited to the event. There wasn't many of us there, and it was an epic opportunity to go and capture some content, meet Baggins, meet David, and just experience something before a lot of other people have experienced it. That was epic. I've invested a lot of time and energy into New World, as you guys know. Do I think Brimstone Sands is gonna save New World? I genuinely don't think it needs saving. One of the big questions I asked was, is New World able to sort of fund itself with the current player base? There wasn't really a formal answer, but the answer was New World's going to continue to be developed, and that's great to hear. So whether there's 5,000 players or whether there's 200,000 players concurrent, I don't think at this point it matters. They're still working on developing the game. But will it save New World? Will it bring people back? I genuinely think it will bring people back, but I don't think there's enough there to keep people entertained for the long term. there's some really cool stuff in here. There's some really cool changes. There's new content, there's new mobs, there's the brand new scenery. It looks fucking wicked. But I think the biggest thing for me is the wars are a big part of the game. Companies can get very rich, and players can get very rich on the back of holding territories, but actually going to war and practicing for war and the whole sort of influence race thing is sort of been left behind. And I think that really needs to be looked at and worked on for people to kind of have this end game content sort of reachable and not sort of locked behind, you know, being in a company per se. And when I say that, I won't go in too deep into this, but you know, pre-war PvP missions need to be really engaging for the whole faction, not just sort of the company. So something that's really engaging and really fun. I think in terms of repeatable content, which is what I think will essentially keep people playing the game, OPRs sort of haven't had a look in at the moment, and they need to have new maps. It needs to be sort of streamlined a bit better, maybe a different game mode. The OPR just needs to be looked at and improved, especially the scoring system. I think expeditions are great as they are. I know a lot of you guys want to see larger expeditions, like essentially raids, you know, maybe a 10 or 20 man raid. That isn't coming anytime soon, but expeditions themselves, they are repeatable, but I don't think there's enough that kind of changes. Maybe when we get the leaderboards, it will make it a bit more competitive, and I think that could be really good. And that is sort of what I personally want, and I think maybe a lot of you guys want, is that ability to kind of move up. When you have no sort of benchmark to move up on or people to kind of compete against, it's not really exciting. So maybe when leaderboards come out, expeditions will be really cool and good fun. 3v3 arenas, great fun, but again, needs to sort of have the leaderboards behind it. And I guess yeah, finally the one thing that I really wanted to see was sort of dynamic world events that change as we go. So there's a corrupted Thorpe spawning here. Everyone sort of goes to it and has a bit of a brawl. But I know I'm waffling on a bit here. So in short, will Brimstone bring back more players? Yes, I genuinely think it will. Will it keep them playing it concurrently moving forward? I don't think it will, until we sort of have a bit more love for that repeatable content. And yeah, I'm not going to waffle on anymore. If you've made it this far, holy shit, I love you, and I appreciate you hanging around, watching it, getting my opinion. I think I could have gone a bit deeper. I could have been a bit more concise with my answers, but I just freeballed this. I just made it up as I went along. So yeah, I appreciate you staying here, and if you haven't subscribed, if you haven't liked, please think about doing so, because it really helps me. It helps me keep going. So big love. Hopefully see you on Twitch. Keep watching the videos. Enjoy Brimstone Sands. If you've got any questions, feel free to drop into my Twitch. I probably won't know the answer.